Sorry about that. Got a little technical issue. All right, I think we're back okay. So we'll record this to the comments. And we'll begin. Welcome, everyone. Greetings. And welcome to Chaucer's Books Virtual Author Discussion, our international discussion with author Gabby, Dawnway, and illustrator Ian Morris. I'm Michael Takeuchi, the events coordinator at Chaucer's Bookstore in Santa Barbara, California, a 47-year-old independent bookstore located in, of course, California. To purchase today's book, or I should say tonight since Gabby and Ian are in England, or to browse other books or check out our upcoming events, please go to our website at chaucersbooks.com. Tomorrow on the 8th, we'll go live with our first in-store event in over 20 months when we welcome local author Mary Dora. On the 9th, we'll welcome local author Dan McCaslin for a virtual event. And a little over a week later on the 17th, to help us celebrate our 47th anniversary, we are bringing in New York Times bestseller Susan Orlean to the store for an in-person event, a special event to talk about her latest release on animals. Again, for more information, please go to our website at chaucersbooks.com. While our guests and I are the only ones seen and heard on this webinar, please feel free to utilize the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen. And today's event is being simulcast on and recorded for our YouTube channel and will be available to view after program's completion. If you're on YouTube, which many of you now are, please use the chat function. We'll keep an eye on that for questions. So let's begin. First, I'd like to bring out our Kids Room Extraordinaire Specialist, Britta Kay, who will lead this talk. Come on out, Britta.
Hello, Mike. How are you today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing.
Long time no see.
I know, it's been so long.
So you've been kind of haranguing me about this book.
I have.
Getting author and illustrator.
Yes, I have.
What drew you to? What prompted you to want to make such an impassioned plea to me?
Well, I mean, I feel like on its face, this book is absolutely gorgeous. When this came in, when it was first put in stock, I kind of went a little nuts. I begged the reps for posters because I kind of want one for me, but I want one for our wall at the store. The color on this is so incredible. The way it grabs you and pulls you in, and then you get it in such wonderful rhyme. And I love very tight rhyme, and sometimes people do not write in as tight a rhyme. I really appreciate when that happens. But she's written such a wonderful book about how much we all love books. I am actually at home today. You can see how much I love books. This is my collection. This is great for all book lovers. I think it's also so fantastic. I had someone buy it yesterday for a kid that doesn't like books yet. And we are going to get into it and talk about the themes of learning to love books. So I think it's just a special thing for anybody that loves books.
All right. Well, shall we begin and have you introduce our people? And I'll step out here.
Well, welcome to Gabby and Ian. Welcome. Hello. And hello.
Hi.
And how are you all today?
Very well.
Fantastic.
Good. Thank you. It's about 7 p.m. in London and Manchester-ish.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dark.
Yes.
Very dark. You look like you're quite in quite a light room, but I feel like I'm very dark and spooky.
Yes, we are in overcast weather. This is a lie. There is a very large light. Fear not.
Okay.
California does have different kinds of weather, strangely. Not many different kinds, but it's perfectly fine. So Gabby Dawnway is our author this morning, and Ian Morris is our illustrator. Gabby, I've been reading a lot about what you've done. You have written a host of picture books, a whole series. If I Had a Dinosaur, If I Had a Sleepy Sloth, If I Had an Octopus, a Unicorn, and a Kangaroo. And also a marvelous book I had not seen before called London Calls.
Oh, yes,
I
yes.
need a copy of that. I love that book, and I love.
Oh, thank you.
Your work is frequently found in a magazine called, is it Okiddo?
Well, you can call it what you know. You can pronounce it however you like, but I tend to call it Okido.
Okiddo.
It's
Oh,
basically O kid O. So
yes.
you can say it however you like. It doesn't. There's no rules.
Right. I thought I had never heard of it. I went and looked it up. It's fantastic. I noticed that you write stories, but you also write poetry for children. You write songs, and you're also a scriptwriter for children's television. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
You are a very busy person.
It always sounds impressive, doesn't it, when you read it? But yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm able to do something that I love, and yeah, so I'm very lucky.
And I see you're also an artist in your own right. I really enjoy your nature work.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I haven't been doing so much recently just because I've been writing so much, but I really enjoy it. It's very, find it really therapeutic actually, just to draw and.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I should be. I've been sort of beating myself up recently, thinking I should be doing more of it. And anyway, that's life.
No, you're fine. I think that in this pandemic, we are all fine. Although
Yes.
there is a meme that my mother sends me about every 4 months, because I'm also an artist. And it says, it's a squirrel with its arms crossed, and it says, the squirrel of judgment wants to know why you are not making art.
Oh.
And she said, yes, I am that squirrel. So no, I'm telling you, you can do whatever you want. Ignore the squirrel of judgment. But this does bring us to Ian, who has been making some pictures. So Ian Morris, you work primarily in watercolor, is that correct?
Absolutely. Very traditional based illustrator, dip pens, pencils, charcoal, anything I can get my hands on that makes a mark or makes color. That's how I work.
Oh man, a man after my own heart. I have tried to work on an iPad. No, it does not work for me. So you frequently illustrate articles for Prospect magazine. Could you describe for an American audience a bit about what, I know what Prospect is, but could you describe it a bit?
Yeah, so it's a monthly magazine that it's a little bit of a mixture of some previous sort of established magazines like The Spectator, The New Statesman, and it talks about current affairs, politics, and it really ranges across subjects and matters. So it talks about books as well and film. And I get the pleasure to illustrate their upfront article section, which is all opinion pieces, which ranges, like I say, from many different subjects like how to fix. So I've recently been illustrating an article called How to Fix Vaccinations for poorer countries across the world that are sort of falling behind the rest of us. And things about UK law. So there's a lot of technical terminology in all of this, and it's all very interesting to read as well, and trying to come up with an illustration that encapsulates everything that's in this article in a very tiny spot illustration. And it's just been wonderful to sort of run alongside, obviously with doing the picture books and all these other projects that I've now got on the go, thankfully after the book's release now. So yeah, it's a fantastic magazine, and yeah, it's just brilliant opportunity.
I think that sometimes, at least in America, we have this joke that children think their teachers don't actually have a home or a life. You know, they're just sort of at school. And then, you know, as they get older, they realize, wait a minute, you have a life. I think people do that with children's book illustrators and writers often and think, oh, they just do one thing. I said, no, most of them do not, in fact. And especially, you know, I think illustration has so many other applications that people don't understand are in their lives every day. I think that's very exciting. I might ask you something more about that later.
Yeah, no problem.
The first question, number one, thank you so much for coming. Like I told you before we had this program, you know, with everyone else here, I really wanted to talk about this book. I am completely in love with this book. It's definitely in my at least top 3 of the year, if not higher. I just don't want to put too fine a point on it because I love all my friends. But Gabby, how did this book come to be? How did you come up with this idea? Where did it start?
Well, there are a few stories, actually, I would say. First of all, I really wanted, Ian and I were sort of introduced over via emails, and we got talking, and Ian did some little illustrations for a project I had on the go, and then he illustrated a poem that I wrote for Okido magazine, which was the beginning, the seeds of the library book. So it was a story set, a little poem set in a library. And he did such a great job that I thought, I want to turn this into a book. I think it would make a really, really good book. So I rewrote it and expanded it, and I talked to an editor at one of the publishers I work with a lot, and she was very keen and she loved Ian's work. And so it sort of evolved that way, but it was very much inspired by the fact that my middle child, when he was, I think must have been about 4 or 5, my mum gave him a stack of books for his birthday, and he looked at them and he picked them up and he literally threw them back in her face and just said, "I hate books." I mean, it was a real sort of visceral. Luckily, my mum was not injured by the books being thrown at her. But the extraordinary thing was, he is now I have 3 children and they're quite big now, but he is a seriously avid reader. He reads the most, the other 2 not so much, but he loves books. And I think it's, the other thing about this book was there was a little bit of Dr. Seuss inspiration from Green Eggs and Ham.
Yes, I noticed that.
Just try something. And I did hear years ago that certainly with foods, if children don't like a certain food, you have to give it to them. You have to try and give it to them about 12, 13 times before they might decide that they do like it. So it's a sort of a bit of a play on that, the idea that if you are persistent enough, that people will turn, or kids will turn around and eventually like something. That's all in the mix. It's not,
That is fantastic. I find that having a book with a pirate shark also might help. I have pointed out the pirate shark many times. Yes, but you're quite right. I think, a bit of the spoonful of sugar, which incidentally was written in response to polio vaccination.
Yes.
The Sherman Brothers children came home and they had gotten the polio vaccination. The brothers were desperately trying to write Mary Poppins, and they heard, they just gave us a spoonful of sugar, and they went,
How brilliant.
I think both the rhyme and the wonderful patterning of the language, but also these amazing illustration, I think they're sort of the spoonful of sugar here. I think that they are that sort of way of getting kids to engage something that maybe they are, and I work again in a children's section of a bookstore. I see it constantly, both the readers who, I read The Hobbit at 4. I have questions about, and I then different questions, but then a lot of parents coming in with various reading struggles, and some of them is literally no, I will not read that book. I will not like that here or there. I would not like that book anywhere. So I'm actually very excited to hear this was a collaboration, as opposed to, so much of the industry now is based in this idea of this person wrote a manuscript, the, publishing house assigns an illustrator. I actually picked up on this idea of a very collaborative effort, but I thought maybe I was just dreaming. So what was it like, guys? Ian, talk to me for a second about what it's like to collaborate with Gabby. How did it go?
Wonderful. Like I can say, like Gabby, when we first were introduced via email, Gabby was very positive and enthusiastic about my drawings, which were still, at a point then, they were still a bit raw. I'd say I'd only just finished my master's at Manchester School of Art. So I was still developing at that point as well. And when I had the wonderful opportunity to illustrate the library, which was the poem for Okido, and turn it into this, it was, I think, a double spread and a single page spread. And tell the story and really explore Gabby's words. And then when we brought it through into the library book, Gabby had this manuscript. And the wonderful thing, because it is in rhyming verse and it is a poem, there's a lot more for me as an illustrator to explore as well. It leaves it quite open-ended for me to include things that might not be within the text, that the children can spot. So like the shark pirate, though it says, it mentions pirates and sharks, but I thought like a shark pirate might be just a little bit of a nice twist in there that kids will spot and be engaged by. And it was just a wonderful process. Like I say, Gabby's a very positive and enthusiastic person and has championed my work throughout. And I was sending her bits of my sketches and drawings while I was working on the book. So we were always in constant communication. And I think that just made the whole collaborative process a lot easier. And Gabby, I think the other thing is there's a lot of trust that goes on in that relationship as well. Gabby was quite open for me to just go down my own sort of rabbit hole. And there wasn't really much resistance even when I was showing the editor at Thames and Hudson some of the drawings. There wasn't a lot of criticism, or it was very much a positive process, really.
Wonderful. I mean, gauging from the work, I think that there wasn't much to criticize. I think that it feels like a very inspired piece of work. It is, have there been books written about how much we love books? Of course. And for book lovers, are we going to buy self-derivative books about how much we love books? Absolutely. But this one, the fact that you guys came together, I think it shows. I really do. And I think that I'm glad that Thames and Hudson had the sense to really embrace that process. What an exciting, that must be a pretty cool place to work with. I'm just saying.
We have a great editor. There's a really wonderful a woman called Anna Ridley, who was the editor on this book, and I've worked with her many times. But I think she really does believe in letting writers and artists and illustrators do their thing. I mean, if anything goes desperately wrong or off track, she's very good at very gently guiding you back in the right direction, or suggesting maybe something that you hadn't thought of that might really help. But she's sort of hugely supportive, and she's just very sensitive to, I think she feels once a book has been commissioned that she trusts that you'll get, this word trust is really important. And I also, before I forget, I must say that my favorite bit really of writing a book is working with the illustrator, and certainly the moment that you see your words turned into images. And Ian is exactly right. What happens is that because you've got a different perspective from the artist or the illustrator, you have somebody else sort of quite often putting a narrative. So whatever is not said in the words can come up in the pictures, and vice versa, so that you're never kind of absolutely reproducing what the words say. You're putting your own twist on it. You're creating your own narrative as an illustrator. And for me, that's just so exciting. You get terribly, I love it. I love it, that moment when you see another bit of work or another spread has been done. It was so brilliant with Ian. It's really good fun. We're very lucky.
I remember the first time I noticed that phenomenon as a reader, and it was about 20 years ago. There's a book called Library Lion by an author named Knudsen. It's a wonderful book. A lion wanders into a library one day and basically installs himself in the place. And even though he's different than any of the humans there, he makes a role for himself. But the whole point is that he doesn't belong there. He then learns, somehow he becomes an integral part of the library that no one else can be. Well, the illustrator, I don't even think it's the title page. It might be the opening flapper. It's something very early. They borrowed the sort of New York Public Library lions and a mini version of the lions. And so the lion goes, oh, there are lions. Clearly, I belong here. And it's not in the narrative.
Yeah.
And there's something so magical when the reader, when a child or an adult sort of notices
Yes.
That little bit of magic. And there's a lot of it in this book.
Oh,
And that means we're going to read it. So, Gabby, can we prevail upon you?
with absolute pleasure. So if I read it, will you show the pictures as
Yeah.
I read? Perfect. Okay, then I don't have to sort of
Yes, you
twist
don't have
around.
to. Yes.
That's perfect. So I'm going to leave that to you.
If,
Okay.
if I may interrupt really quickly, when you show the photos, Britta, maybe you can just say a word or two. That way it'll pop up on the video and can record.
Okay. Do it again.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
The library book. There is a special place for books, a place they live in shelves and nooks. From A to Z, stacked high in piles, these books go on for miles and miles. So come inside and take a look. It's time to find your favorite book.
And here we have it. Someone already looks a little trepidatious.
Too many books to pick just one. The trick is choosing. That's the fun. No need to hurry. There's no rush. But don't forget to whisper. Now, here is Zach and there is Ro. You coming, Zach? But Zach says,
No. I had to do it.
I don't like books. I really don't. I will not read them. No, I won't. Hey, Zach, why don't you follow me? There are so many books to see. So many books to see. It's true. There must be one that's right for you. A story waits inside each book. Just turn the pages. Look, look, look.
Look, we say. Look at all the things.
I don't like any books, says Zach. I want to go. Please put them back. You can't have seen them all, says Ro. Why don't you have another go? Some books are long. Some books are short. You need to find your favourite sort. I think you'd like a funny story, a thrilling tale, or something gory.
It's a nice long book, by the way.
No, says Zach. All books are boring. When I read, I end up snoring.
May I order a book tent, please? I would really like a book tent.
I'll sort you out.
Sorry. All right, continue.
But have you tried adventure books with superheroes, cops and crooks, or ancient legends, pirate tales with buried treasure, sharks and whales?
Pirate shark, pirate everyone, very important.
Too many words, too many pages. Reading one will take me ages. I don't like books. Why can't you see these silly books are not for me?
They are, though. Always for you. It's fine.
But books make stories come alive. Just open up and in you'll dive. These comics, poems and picture books all wait like paper fishing hooks to reel you in. And with a tug, you've gone and caught the reading bug.
I love this illustration.
I do not want to read a book. I do not want to take a look. I do not like books. Put them back. I want to watch TV, says Zach.
Nope.
But there are books on dinosaurs with scary claws and snappy jaws, or fairy tales with smart princesses slaying dragons, wearing dresses.
Okay, we need a close-up on this dino situation. And then, is this Smaug?
It is.
Yay!
I can confirm that.
I have too many Tolkien heads at work. I had to ask. Anyway, go ahead.
Books on spiders, snakes, and lizards. Books on witches. Books on wizards. Read a book and you will find that magic grows inside your mind. A book could help you banish plastic. Save our planet. How fantastic.
Yes, indeed.
Perhaps you want to learn to cook? You do? I have the perfect book. Or I'd like to learn some fancy kicks. Is there a book of soccer tricks? There is. Or you could fly through space right here within this quiet place of print and pages, words and ink, a room where you can stop and think.
Like a fun project right here. I like that.
So many stories everywhere, a world of words that we can share. So much to read, so much to learn. So turn the pages, turn, turn, turn. So choose a book. Come on, let's go. You coming, Zach? But Zach says... No. These books are cool. Don't put them back. I want to read them all, says Zach. You can, says Ro. And here's the trick. You get to borrow books you pick. No need to rush, no need for speed. Just don't forget to whisper. Shh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Says Zach. I want to read.
Fantastic. Hold on, I'm getting it. Oh, Gabby, that was wonderful. You have to understand, when Mike sent me the text saying that we had finally scheduled this, the word that I used was, I am totally fangirling right now. And I am once again totally fangirling. That was amazing. Thank you so much for that reading. That was delightful. And sorry to interrupt like that, but I'm glad we've got the illustrations up. So, okay. Oh gosh, illustrations. Ian, I've got to talk to you about this. So this is hysterical. I pulled this book from our doc, our loading dock. Mm-hmm. And I went, this looks like Quentin Blake, but brightly colored in a way that Blake is not. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is my childhood copy, incidentally, of Matilda. I've had it the whole time. For people that might not know who Quentin Blake is, he was Roald Dahl's illustrator, also illustrated a bunch of other wonderful books. I have the book Clown. It's
wonderful. That's one of my favorites to look at, to refer to.
I bought that in Italy because it was not in Italian. But yes, so this, and then the other day I went, he also reminds me of Chris Riddell a little bit. Blurb, and I just wanted to point that out. Later, I saw that Tenzin Hudson had said, it kind of reminds us of Blake. It kind of reminds us of, Riddell. And I went, yeah, pretty much. I have a friend here in the States who's obsessed with Riddell. So I actually have a massive Riddell collection via my friend Richard, which is unusual here. But yes, how do you feel about those comparisons? Because sometimes it's so wonderful. Those are two giants in our field. In children's picture books, those are massive giants. At this, and I think it's a very well-deserved.
Thank you.
I was blown away by this book, illustration-wise, but does it ever get tiring to be compared to other?
Well, no, because I've worked really hard to get to this point. Really, I'm only I'll be 26 next month, but I'm still young, and there's a lot more for me to sort of develop on this. This is my first book, and with other projects got on the go at the moment, they're getting even more developed now. So it's a sort of comparison I don't mind, because, like you say, they're two of the most highly acclaimed illustrators that are around still as well. Right. And with Chris, I don't know if you know in the States, but he actually endorsed the UK version with a glorious endorsement for the book, which was wonderful. And he was the reason that I wanted to become an illustrator, funny enough. And I think this is how weird the universe works. I was 8 years old and I found a book called The Last of the Sky Pirates, which was a fantasy series which he worked on with Paul Stewart. Mm-hmm. And I was just absorbed by the illustrations that Chris Riddell had done. I'd never seen anything quite like it before. Mm-hmm. And I was a bit like Zach as well, of, oh my, yes, wow. Wonderful. Just his craftsman, his draftsmanship is incredible. The use of his line, and I've seen him draw as well, and it's very much decisive, and he just takes it for a walk and sees where it goes. And I think that Quentin Blake's quite similar in that sense. They don't think too much about the line. They just let the line do its thing and just see where it ends up. And I think that's an important thing as an illustrator, is to sort of be spontaneous with the line as well, and let it really have that freshness to it as well, which I think a lot of the illustrations in the library book do have that immediacy and that freshness and movement in them, which is wonderful. But yeah, it's never something that gets really old. It's for me, it's just a testament to how hard I've worked this last few years, from leaving school and going through university, and to this point now working with Gabby on the library book and whatever else is coming next. And yeah, it's just a fantastic acknowledgement, really. I wear it with pride. Like I say, I've worked hard.
Good. I mean, I have to tell you, so again, I enjoy picture books. I look up various things. If there's an author I don't recognize, an illustrator I don't recognize, whatever. This book, I immediately went and hunted. And, Gabby, you have a long established set of books that you've done and then other work that you have done. And I went, okay, so Gabby's been doing this for a bit. And then I looked you up and I went, has he done anything? Is this genuinely his first book? And I was in shock. I told half the staff, they're probably tired of hearing about it by now, how excited I was. I said, I can't wait to see what this guy does.
Thank you.
This is great. I trained in drawing years ago. I may have to pick your brain later, not on this call, because I keep thinking about going back and studying illustration myself. And there is something about, I've watched Riddell. If anybody is interested, Chris Riddell has wonderful internet presence. It's Riddell. And he will put drawing videos. And it's shocking to just sort of say, all right, well, here's the forehead. This is where it's going to be. And here's just where the nose, there's no sense of a guideline. And it's perfect and it's wonderful. And it has, this is sort of, I hope, an okay word to use. I love the somewhat sketchy quality. There is not a sense of over-finished line.
Thank you.
Which I'm also an animation fiend. And so when hand-drawn animation was a thing, that was always enjoyed. So I just have to say, I feel like this packs such a punch. The one thing that I think is distinct from both Riddell, Riddell has wonderful color sense. Pirates has been a very popular book here. We sell it a lot. It's magnificent. I mean, it is beautiful. I mean, it's Neil. We love Neil. We love Neil Gaiman. But your color theory is also quite distinct. Could you talk at all about how do you do color, or is it all instinctive and you can't really say?
I would say it is purely instinctive, because I've mainly studied drawing. So I used to do a lot of life drawing work, and that was I think that's when I started to become a bit more, like I say, a bit more spontaneous with my use of line, where there was a line in a book that I found when I was studying on my master's called "The least laboured line is often the most expressive." And it's that idea of letting go of sort of your fears of what the drawing is going to look like, and just enjoying the actual process of the drawing. And even if it's a quick sketch, there might be something in that that's really expressive in the moment. So I would do, as well as doing life drawing, I'd go around Manchester, whether I was on the tram or on the bus, So I used to work at an art shop. So I used to print off receipt roll and be sketching people that were walking past the window, which isn't a great thing if you're meant to be working, because it did get me in trouble once or twice. But yeah, because it was so quiet during the day, I'd be there drawing people walking past, and I feel like that contributes. But colour, so yeah, when I was doing my life drawing work, I'd be using a lot of colour in that, and I felt like it was quite sort of in the moment as well. So when it does come to colour, I try to just work when I've drawn the illustration. I mean, I've just been doing a few spreads for a different book at the moment, and there wasn't really any plan. I had an idea in my head of what I was wanting to sort of go with. It's just like I just sort of see where it takes me more than anything. And it's quite a reactionary thing, really. There's not a lot of planning to it. I think there was a little bit with the library book in terms early on, but it was mainly sort of pencil crayon work rather than using watercolors, because I feel like watercolor is such an unpredictable medium as well. It's quite a difficult one to sort of because the water can run in any way it wants if you let it, and luminosity of the paper, watercolor once it dries. So it's quite an unpredictable medium, which I really enjoy working with. And just the colors are the main draw.
So what materials are actually involved in these illustrations?
So a few of them, so the line is dip pen work, very much like Quentin Blake using a dip pen. I just like the scratchiness of the lines. With the ones that I use as well, you can sort of vary the line width as well, so you can sort of build a bit more depth with the illustration. Watercolor, and then there'd be use of colored inks as well. So I think on the first page where they're just outside the library, the bushes are done in green ink, as well as the flowers done in a crimson sort of color. And it just added a bit more subtlety to the page and really gave you more focus on the children outside. And that became the background and to the illustration, which really, I think, draws you in. And that was something that was used throughout the rest of the book. So when Zach falls into the water, his outline is blue. And then when I was laying watercolor over the top of that, it blurs the line. So it gives it that feel that he is under the water. And as you can just see there, and you can sort of see where it's bled a little bit along his feet at the back, and it just adds a different sort of aesthetic feel to the illustration as well.
Fantastic. I could talk about that for days. But one of the things, Gabby, that I found so interesting, because there is this immediacy of line and this immediacy of expression in the illustration, I would not call the rhyme restrained, but I would call the rhyme exact. I love exact rhyme. And again, especially in children's publishing, there can be some very sloppy moments of rhyme. I look at people, though, like Julia Donaldson, for our viewers who might not know, wrote The Gruffalo, and Room on the Broom is very popular here. She's not a franchise like she's in the UK, but she is very popular here. And then Chris Van Dusen also wrote Circus Ship and Down to the Sea with Mr. McGee. When he writes in rhyme, is exacting. And I always pull them off the shelf for people looking for rhythm. And I also pull this book for people looking for rhythm. And so I'm just curious, what are your methods when you go to do rhyme? What are your inspirations? You mentioned Seuss, and I thought that was interesting because Seuss, of course, has nonsense rhyme, but nonetheless was an exacting rhymer.
Yeah,
which I appreciated.
But funny enough, I wasn't hugely aware of Zeus when I was a kid, but I loved green eggs, and he's not, I'm afraid he's not very fashionable at the moment, so I don't want to talk too much about him just in case it upsets people. But is a sort of miniature little work of genius in terms of, I just remember when I heard that, I think his editor said, we want you to write a children's book, and you have a very limited vocabulary. You can only use X amount of words to write this book. Yes. And I think maybe that's the secret to keeping it really, tight, and that is that you have to be really hard on yourself. And sometimes if you give yourself limits, or I don't know, I remember reading actually that Julia Donaldson always asks her husband to read her work, and I ask my kids to read it. And if they stumble, or if they find something a little bit difficult to read, I mean, they're grown-ups, almost grown-ups, so they shouldn't be stumbling. But you really, it should be easy to read. So you have to be super strict with yourself, and you have to kind of give yourself, I think, certain restrictions perhaps. And I think if you're writing for children in particular, there are sometimes you can be a little bit lazy, and you can sort of twist things perhaps to work. And you must never allow, if you're writing for children, you should never allow yourself to do that. And I think I've got better at that as I've moved. I mean, I've been writing for kids for quite a long time now. And I certainly think my work now is much more, it's seriously child focused. So there are certain words that might be perfect that you can't use because they're a word that's not going to be understood by that age group. Or there's a certain way of saying something that's clumsy and difficult to read, so you can't put it in, however tempting it might be. So yes, I suppose it's highly considered. It's you sometimes things come out very easily and very naturally, and it works immediately very well. And other times it's quite a struggle. But I think that you always have to have that in mind. Never be lazy. Always make, if that's the way you choose to do it, because obviously not all poetry rhymes. But if this is what you're trying to do, then you have to be super strict with yourself. I find it quite difficult if I'm reading something and it doesn't quite work. It's sort of been a little bit, shunted in there. And I always sort of, I find that quite difficult. So I think to myself, I'm never going to, and sometimes you have a good editor and they say, that's a little bit, you've done a little bit lazy there. And you think, yes, I have. So you go away and you rewrite it. Yeah, definitely. But I guess, I've been writing poetry and stories since I was very young. So I should be all right at it by now.
I think that you have succeeded at all right. I think you have exceeded that. I think the other day, it's so funny. I love children's literature. I come from a family of teachers. I actually took the job that I currently have 20 years ago when I graduated from university, and came back almost 20 years to the day, about 6 months ago. But I have been an avid collector, obviously, the whole time. Although I do have Evan Boland and some other heavier, Milton, there are other things. That's fine. Who cares? But I found this quote the other day that I had posted 7 years ago from C.S. Lewis. A children's story that can be enjoyed only by children is not a good children's story in the slightest. And I think that holds quite true no matter what level we are speaking of. I received a book recently that I'm absolutely in love with by an Italian author named Carozzi called Brave as a Mouse, that has such economy of words. I've rarely seen a book tell a story with such amazing beats, but it's marvelous. I read it aloud to the adults. It takes 2 seconds because it is such a special story that we all acknowledge that's what we want. But I think that also when a children's author does that, they are saying to children, I take you seriously as a person, not just your education, not just, some sort of mission, but I take you seriously. Madeleine L'Engle was my favorite novelist as a child, partially for that reason, because she said the only difference between an adult book and a children's book is, will the adult believe what's in it? That's how I decided that A Wrinkle in Time was a children's book, for example. But when I meet an author that takes children seriously, and I think that you do, you take that experience seriously of, I don't like books. All right. Seriously, that they actually deserve something that is well crafted. And so thank you for that. I think that is a wonderful and important thing that is often missed. that we think that we can be lazy with the little things we make for children. There's nothing little about them. In our department, we understand we're making lifelong readers, hopefully. And if not avid readers, at least people that can find something they like, whether it's a skateboard biography.
Yeah. I genuinely think it is just a question of finding the right book. If you think you don't like books, you just haven't found the right one yet, that just can be that your gateway into reading. And maybe you don't continue to read for a while. In your 20s, perhaps you're doing other things. But I think it's just, I don't know, I'm obviously like you and Ian, and we're all passionate about books because I feel that they're everything, really. You can dream and imagine, and I've spent so much time reading where I've been transported, and my life has been changed as well by certain books. I think every book you read is a little bit molding you, it's a little bit changing you. But anyway, it's a sort of, if you're there, if you understand, you feel quite passionate about it.
So guys, thank you so much for joining me. We're not quite done. We're close, but I just wanted to celebrate this book so much, and I'm so glad that you're here. And one last thing I'd like to do before we run out of time. Ian, would you be able to show us any kind of either demonstration or some other things you're working, or some such item?
Let's see what we can do. Hold on. Let me change my webcam, and I'll just mirror it because it is slightly the wrong way around. There we go. So while we were talking, we've got Hello Chaser Book. So thank you for having us today. It's been a wonderful experience, and obviously Britta, because you love the Shark Pirate. While Gabby was reading the book, we've got Ro up here, Zach, and the Shark Pirate with a collection of books underneath his flipper, ready to sail the seven seas with his pirate crew and read a load of books to everyone on them long voyages.
Oh my God. Oh, amazing.
Have you made Britta cry?
You're actually making me cry. Oh my gosh, how special. That is
You're welcome.
Oh, we love it. You've got our black cat.
Yes. Yeah, I tried to do the cat there, but I realized it'd get lost if I started colouring him. So then I put the logo of Chaser Books on the front there.
Always put the black cat on front of everything. So the story there is that we've had the same owner for our 47-year history. She's still in the office quite often, and her cat at the time was Chaucer. So wonderful.
You're welcome. No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so very much for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Guys, thank you. I am completely blown away by that.
That to Chaucer Books. Can you get that to Britta? Is there any way of scanning and sending it, or?
Oh, I could probably scan it. It's in my special Manchester City sketchbook, so I can't really be sending that all the way across the Atlantic. I'll certainly maybe I could probably get a print of it sent to you, Britta, if that is something you'd love. And I'll get one of the shark as well to you as well.
Oh, Ian, that's absolutely phenomenal. Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem at all.
Information. Oh gosh. Yes, that's thank you, Mike.
Oh, there was a Zoom bomber. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was crazy, Mike. Don't know how that happened. Anyway, well, Ian, we'd love to see your face to say goodbye.
Yeah, no problem. I'll switch it. Hold on.
About that shark, you don't understand. Anyway, Gabby, thank you so much. Thank you for this book.
Thank you for having us.
Ian, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for this book, and thank you for the shark.
You're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting us both.
Yeah, and
Really has.
please just come by Santa Barbara. I just randomly one day. I will probably be there for quite some time. So, But anyway, thank you so much. And everyone, please come buy copies of this. I love this book. I have been telling everyone how much I love this book, but we're going to do it online now. The Library Book by Gabby, Dawnway, illustrated by Ian Morris, published by Thames and Hudson 2021. Definitely one of my top picks of the year. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful evening. And I will talk to you again. Bye.
Speak to you again. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.